And that man knows what he's doing. He knows. So, Hussein, we're going to work with you and make sure everything goes smoothly. We have powers that haven't really been used in terms of environmental. If you invest over $1 billion in the United States, we're going to give expedited reviews to everybody because everyone's afraid they're going to come in and get caught in the quagmire, which is very prevalent in the United States, unfortunately, the quagmire of environmental and various other regulations and rules. And I made it a point of telling people, if you invest $1 billion or more, and we'll do this for people with far less too, but we guarantee it. We're going to move them quickly through the environmental process. Sometimes people held up 12, 13, 14, 15 years. I saw it with plants in Louisiana where I got it approved in literally a week. They were through the review, and
imagine earning 35% just for referring. Stop imagining.
Trying to get
Join Plutus affiliate program.
Terrible thing. So I've been a victim of that myself over the years. I think I know all the games and all the tricks that are played, and much of it is just done to stop progress. So we're going to be helping you and everybody else that comes to the United States and wants to invest their money, that you don't get tied up for the rest of your life and you can't do anything. This commitment further underscores that many of the greatest business leaders on earth are seeing a very bright economic future for America since the election. As you know, a lot of positive things have happened. We are inheriting a difficult situation from the outgoing administration, and they're trying everything they can to make it more difficult. Inflation is continuing to rage, and interest rates are far too high. And I've been disappointed to see the Biden administration's attempt to block the reforms of the American people and that they voted for. We had a landslide election. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of people. Nobody even knows how many people, millions. And they're still counting in some areas. You know, they're still counting the vote in some areas. Can you believe this? What a place. What a horrible place. One of the things we're going to do is we've got to fix the election so that we get honest counts and they get done by 10 o'clock in the evening or something thereabouts. They have places where they're still counting votes. President Biden's actions yesterday on offshore drilling, banning offshore drilling, will not stand. I will reverse it immediately. It'll be done immediately. And we will drill, baby, drill. And we're going to be drilling in a lot of other locations. And the energy costs are going to come way down. They'll be brought down to a very low level. And that's going to bring everything else down. That's what caused it to go up, along with the ridiculous spending on the Green New Scam. All this money, trillions of dollars. It's like throwing it right out the window, what they're doing. And they're trying to spend so much now. They're just taking money and giving it to anybody that wants it for any project at all, if it's certified under the Green New Scam. And they don't work, and it's too expensive. And, they told me that we're going to do everything possible to make this transition. They told me that administration we're going to. It's not smooth. Do everything possible. They're doing that. They're playing with the courts, as you know. They've been playing with the courts for 4 years. Probably got me more votes because I got the highest number of votes ever gotten by a Republican, by far, actually, by a lot. And we had a great election. So I guess it didn't work. But even to this day, they're playing with the courts. They have their friendly judges that like to try and make everybody happy on the Democrat side. It's called lawfare. It's called weaponization of justice, and it's happened at a level nobody's ever seen before. So many. I defeated deranged Jack Smith. He's a deranged individual. I guess he's on his way back to The Hague, and we won those cases. Those were the biggest ones, and the press made such a big deal out of them, but we did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong on anything, and the people saw that. When they vote, when a Republican, it's not easy for a Republican. When the Republican wins the popular vote by millions and wins all 7 of the swing states, people said, well, he could win 4. We won all 7, and we won them by a lot. That tells you we won. And they've been watching this injustice. I call it the Injustice Department. What they've done is so bad. The whole world has watched that. And it took work, but it got me a lot of votes because when explained, I mean, we have a judge in New York who's a very crooked judge. I'm under a gag order. I can't even talk about aspects of the case that are the most vital aspects. I'm under a gag. Do you know that I'm the president-elect of the United States of America? I'm a former very successful president. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We had borders that were sealed and beautiful. We had, everything was good. We had no wars. We defeated ISIS. We had no wars. Now I'm going into a world that's burning with Russia and Ukraine, with Israel. You took a look at that attack on October 7th, the attack on Israel, with the horrible way they got out. Not the fact that they got out. I would have been out before them, but we would have been out of Afghanistan with dignity and strength as opposed to looking like a bunch of fools with 13 dead and many, many badly, horrifically injured. Nobody ever talks about them. No arms, no legs. Nobody ever talks about them. The way they got out was outrageous, leaving billions of dollars of brand new military equipment that I bought in the hands of the Afghans and specifically the Taliban. It's the group. And we were doing very well. We would have been out. We would have been respected. I think it's one of the reasons it was so badly handled, that withdrawal where people are jumping onto airplanes, falling off the sides of airplanes when they're 3,000 feet in the air. And nobody's ever seen anything like that, the worst. And because of that, I think Russia went and attacked Ukraine. When they saw that, they said, these guys are incompetent. They don't know what they're doing. But we know what we're doing now. And that's going to all end. And we have a great military. I defeated ISIS, as you know. We were in no wars. I just finished a couple. And we got also our soldiers guarding Syria and Turkey. We were in the middle. We had 5,000 soldiers. They would have been gobbled up with two armies. We had one army, 300,000. We had another one, 500,000 or 600,000, getting ready. We had 5,000 people in the middle. I said to a general, how do 5,000 people do in that case? And the general just looked at me and said, not well, sir, not well. And I took them out. And you know what happened? Nothing. I got criticized. I saved 5,000 lives, actually. And we did a great job, and we're going to do an even better job because now we have a tremendous amount of experience. We have people that I can rely on. But the 625 million acres, people can't realize. It's like the whole ocean. Take an acre. You know, an acre, you have a house on a half an acre, on a quarter of an acre, or an acre. If you have an acre, you have a big deal. Now you multiply that by 625 million acres. It's like, feels like the whole ocean. And that's our strength, you know. People can say we manufacture, we don't manufacture. The thing we have oil and gas more than anybody in the world. We're going to have more of it, too. But they took away 625 million acres of offshore drilling. Nobody else does that. And they think they have it, but we'll put it back. I'm going to put it back on day one. I'm going to have it revoked on day one. We'll go immediately if we need to. I don't think we should have to go to the courts. But if we do have to go to the courts, you know, they try to be sneaky. They go in and they sign. Remember, this is a man that said he wants the transition to be smooth. Well, you don't do the kind of things. You don't have a judge working real hard to try and embarrass you. Because I did nothing wrong. By the way, I did nothing, absolutely nothing wrong. If I did something wrong, I wouldn't be standing here right now because I've won all these cases. Nobody's ever won so many cases as I have against the Justice Department. I mean, Jack Smith had cases all over the place. People were being subpoenaed. Lives were being ruined. They were spending everything they had, money. We were helping them out. We had to. They were subpoenaing people that had no idea what they were even talking about. That's a sick group of people. And it was all to influence the election. It was all a fight against a political opponent. We've never had that in this country. We have had that in certain countries. We've had that in third-tier countries. We've had that in banana republics, but we've never had that in a place like the United States. I don't even know if it's been on a small level. I'm sure it has been on a small level, but this was the largest level ever. They brought this moron out of The Hague. He's a mean guy. He's a mean, nasty guy. His picture was perfect. because you look at his picture, you say, that's a bad guy with his robe, his purple robe. And he executes people. He shouldn't be allowed to execute people because he'll execute everybody. He's a nut job. But we won all of those cases with him. And, I mean, I don't know the judge in Florida, but we had a brilliant judge in Florida that saw right through it. And we won the case. She was a brilliant judge with great courage. You know, the left, as we call them, the radical left, they have a way, they play the ref, and they play it very hard. They play the ref. They go and say horrible things about judges and prosecutors. And some judges and prosecutors say, look, the only way I'm going to get these people off my back is to give victory to them. They're playing the ref. I think it's illegal what they do. It's almost like talking. It's worse than talking to a judge. But the judge in Florida, Judge Cannon, was brilliant and tough, and she didn't stand for it. And I don't know her. And never met her until the case, and I don't believe I said even one word to her. But she was very, very strong and very, very brilliant. And her opinion was so brilliant that they dropped their appeal. They couldn't beat the appeal. So that's what we're up against. So they say we're going to have a smooth transition. All they do is talk. It's all talk. Everything they do is talk. We're going to have a smooth transition. And then they take 625 million acres and they essentially landmark it so you can't ever drill there again. Well, we're going to be drilling soon. We're going to be opening up Anwar. We're going to be doing all sorts of things. Everything they do is talk. We're going to have a smooth transition. Nobody ever thought and then they take 620. But remember when, and just to get off the subject, because I couldn't believe it when I heard it yesterday. I couldn't believe the size of it. I mean, you put down a map and put this up. It's just massive. And remember that that's worth probably, I mean, I've had estimates, $40 to $50 trillion. That's more than our national debt. Essentially, he's thrown it away. He's thrown it away. He's taken $50 trillion. So if we owe $35 trillion, he's taken $50 trillion of value and thrown it right out the window. We can't do that. Nobody can do that. One other thing he did yesterday, which was in many ways worse. It's hard to believe it could be 5 million acres. He wants all gas heaters, essentially landmark it so you can't ever drill there again. Your homes, and he wants all gas heaters. He wants them to be replaced by essentially electric heaters. I don't know what it is with electric. This guy loves electric. We're going to be ending the electric essentially electric heaters. I don't know what it is. This guy loves electric. This guy loves electric. We're going to be ending the electric. We don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more, and he wants to get. He wants everybody to have an electric. We don't have enough electricity, and then we have AI where we need more. And he wants to get the heat is much better. Electric heater. It's a much better heat. Gas heater is much less expensive. As the expression goes, the heat is much better. Does anybody have better heat? A heater where you go and you scratch. As the expression goes, that's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where a heater where you don't have the problems of the electric. That's what they want you to have. They don't want you to have gas where source is plentiful. You don't have the problems. They're much cheaper to operate. They're much better. They work much better. They look much better. Source is plentiful. 60%. They're much cheaper to operate. They're much better. They work much better. They look much better. All removed quickly. These people are crazy. There's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them. They also want to go back, and they have already started that, to when you buy a faucet, no water comes out because they want to preserve. Even in areas that have so much water, you don't know what to do. It's called rain. It comes down from heaven. And they want to do, no water comes out of the shower. It goes drip, drip, drip. So what happens, you're in the shower 10 times as long, you know. No water comes out of the faucet. You want to wash your hands. They want to go back to even stronger than what they have right now. As you know, I ended that policy. You can have all the water you want. Makes no difference. It comes weird, especially in certain areas. We have so much water, we don't know what to do with it. But these are all things. They want very, very little water to go into your dishwasher, almost none. And you know what people do? They just keep pressing, keep it going. They end up using more water. Likewise, washing machines. They want in your washing machine to have very little water coming out of the washing machine. So when you wash your clothing, you have to wash it 4 times instead of once. You end up using more water. We're a party of common sense, and things that I'm telling you now is really all about common sense. On January 20th, we'll turn the economy around very quickly, because right now when I think of our economy, I think about inflation. That's what we have. We have inflation. I believe at a level that we never had before. There's never been anything like it. And over the next 4 years, the United States is going to take off like a rocket ship. But really, it's already doing
never
it.
had before. There's never been anything like it.
Just last
and
month,
over the next 4 years, the United States
$200 billion.
Take off like a rocket ship.
But really, it's already doing it. 200, and he sort of said yes. But let's say it's 100, but it might be 200, right, Brian? Dollars, United States creating more than 100,000 jobs. Hussein just announced a tremendous investment that he's going to make, and that's money that's in the bank. He's going to come and do it, and he'll do a great job, and he'll build the best centers in the country, I guarantee, because I know the way he builds. Since my election, the stock market has set records. The S&P 500 index has broken above 6,000 points for the first time ever, never even close. In a single month, small business optimism soared 41 points. It's not a 41. It went up 41 points. And that's the largest in the 39-year history of the group that does it. According to Gallup, the American people's confidence in the economy has just surged to the highest level in history. That's why I have a news conference like that. I take the greatest business leaders in the world. I say, hey, do you want to say you're going to invest the money? They're not looking for news conferences. They're saying, what am I doing here? They go in and they invest money. But it's good to know where the smartest business people in the world are investing, and they're investing in the United States. So we've done this all in 2 months of not being there. We haven't been there. And it's pretty amazing, and we think we're going to do some really great things, really great things. We're being respected again all over the world. The Panama Canal is a disgrace, what took place at the Panama Canal. Jimmy Carter gave it to them for $1. And they were supposed to treat us well. I thought it was a terrible thing to do. It was the most expensive structure ever built in the history of our country, relatively. It would be the equivalent of substantially over $1 trillion today. We lost 38,000 people. Think of it, 38,000 people, they died from malaria, mosquitoes. They were unable to stop the mosquitoes. They paid people 5 times more to take the job. Many of those people died. We gave it away for $1. But the deal was that, they have to treat us fairly. They don't treat us fairly. They charge more for our ships than they charge for ships of other countries. They charge more for our Navy than they charge for navies of other countries. They laugh at us because they think we're stupid. But we're not stupid anymore. So the Panama Canal is under discussion with them right now. They violated every aspect of the agreement, and they morally violated it also. And they want our help because it's leaking and not in good repair. And they want us to give $3 billion to help fix it. I said, well, why don't you get the money from China? Because China's basically taken it over. China's at both ends of the Panama Canal. China's running the Panama Canal. And they come to see this Biden, this guy who should never have been allowed even to run for president. Of course, she shouldn't have either, because that never happened. I had to be 2 people, not 1. But they want $3 billion to fix the Panama Canal that's run by China and makes a lot of money, China. One of the most profitable structures ever built, because you have ships lined up back to Florida, frankly, and they just keep going through, and the numbers are staggering, $500,000 to $1 million a ship. And they took it away from us, meaning we gave it to them for $1. But not going to happen. What they've done to us, they've charged us, they've overcharged our ships, overcharged our Navy. And then when they need repair money, they come to the United States to put it up. We get nothing. Those days are over. Working with the Republican majorities in Congress, will cut taxes, slash regulations, raise wages, and boost incomes at a pace the world has not seen before, and certainly not from our country. We had a big chunk of it for the first 3 years prior to COVID coming in my administration. We had the greatest economy in history. We cut the most regulations in the history of our country, and I did that all in 4 years. By 4 times more than any other president cut. We did that in 4 years. And we were just getting started. We'll impose new tariffs so that the products on our stores will once again be stamped with those beautiful words, made in the USA. And we are not treated well, as you know, by Canada. Canada is subsidized to the tune of about $200 billion a year, plus other things.
Canada.
They don't essentially have a military.
Subsidized to the tune of
military. They rely on our
about $200 billion a year,
fine,
plus other things.
They gotta pay for that.
They don't essentially have a military. Subsidized to the tune of
military.
They rely on our $200 billion a year,
Fine,
plus
Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in it'll take 2 seconds.
other things.
They
Canada. They
I
don't.
got to run for prime minister or governor. You tell me. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it better. But no, something's going to happen.
Canada has a military.
We have a massive deficit with Mexico, and we help Mexico a lot. They're essentially run by the cartels. And
To the military, they rely.
can't let that happen. Mexico's really in trouble, a lot of trouble. Very dangerous place.
on our $200 billion a year,
Fine,
plus
Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in We're going to.
it'll take 2 seconds. Other things. Canada. They don't.
Got to run for prime minister or governor. You tell me. I said,
sort of the
I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting.
But
rid
no,
of-
something's going to happen.
Canada
has a military.
We have a massive deficit with Mexico,
changing,
and we help
of the Gulf
Mexico a
of
lot.
Mexico,
They're essentially run by the
the
cartels.
Gulf of
America.
And to the military, they rely.
Covers
Can't let that happen.
a lot of territory.
Mexico's
The Gulf
really
of
in trouble.
America. What
A lot
a
of
beautiful
trouble.
name.
Very dangerous
And
place.
it's appropriate.
An hour, $200 billion a year.
Fine.
Plus Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in
We're going to.
It'll take 2 seconds. Other things. Canada. They don't going to run for prime minister or governor. You tell me. I said, sort of the opposite. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting. But no, something's going to happen. We have a massive deficit with Mexico. Changing, and we help Mexico a lot. Mexico, essentially run by the cartels.
of America.
And to the military, they rely. Can't let that happen.
A lot of territory.
Mexico's
The Gulf
really
of
in trouble.
America. What
A lot
a
of
beautiful
trouble.
name. Tango.
Very dangerous
And
place.
it's appropriate. We're
An hour,
approaching the dawn of
$200 billion a year.
America.
Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in We're going to. It'll take 2 seconds. Other things. Canada. They don't going to run for prime minister or governor. You tell me. I said, sort of the opposite. I said, I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting. But no, something's going to happen. We have a massive deficit with Mexico. Changing, and we help Mexico a lot. Mexico, essentially run by the cartels of America. And to the military, they rely. Can't let that happen. A lot of terror. Mexico's really in trouble. What a beautiful name.
Tango.
Very dangerous
And
place.
it's appropriate. Period of time.
We're $200 billion a year. Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in We're going to. It'll take 2 seconds. Other things. Canada. They don't going to run for prime minister or governor. I said, sort of the opposite. I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting. But no, something's going to happen. We have a massive deficit with Mexico. Changing, and we help Mexico a lot. Mexico, essentially run by the cartels of America. And to the military, can't let that happen. A lot of terror. Mexico's really in trouble. What a beautiful name. Tango. Very dangerous place. It's appropriate. We're $200 billion a year. Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in We're going to. It'll take 2 seconds. Other things. Canada. They don't going to run for prime minister or governor. I said, sort of the opposite. I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting. But no, something's going to happen. We have a massive deficit with Mexico. Changing, and we help Mexico a lot. Mexico, essentially run by the cartels of America. And to the military, can't let that happen. A lot of terror. Mexico's really in America. What a beautiful name. Tango. Very dangerous place. It's appropriate. $200 billion a year. Wayne Gretzky, I said, run for prime minister, you'll win in We're going to. It'll take 2 seconds. Other things. They don't going to run for prime minister or governor. I said, sort of the opposite. I don't know. Let's make it governor. I like it everything up, essentially getting. But no, something's going to happen.
destroyed the economic viability. And with AI coming along, a lot of people don't realize that AI can do 50, 60, double the electricity at least. Right now, with a man that has no idea what he's you destroyed the economic, and we're going to build bigger and better ones. People like Hussein that are doing the same thing as he is. I'll bet they don't do it as well because I know how he does it, but they're doing a lot of things. The problem is they can't get their permits because I say build the plant with the building. So with the structure, build the plant, because if you go into grids are old. So they said, that's a great idea. In other words, build your electric facility alongside of your plant. And you could have extra output if you want, because once you build it, you can make it larger pretty inexpensively. You could have extra output, which you'll sell to the public, but build it with the plant, and people are loving that idea. So we're going to have a lot of fun making America great again, and it's going to happen, I think, very, very quickly. It's already happened. So I would say this, and this has been pretty openly reported by the news. There's never been anything like what's happened in the list since we won the election. Couple of months since we won the election, the whole perception of the whole world is different. People from other countries have called me. They said, thank you. Thank you. The perception of the whole world is different. We're going to have to settle some big problems that are going on right now. We're going to have to settle up with Russia, Ukraine. That's a disaster. I look at numbers every week, the number of people being killed in that war. People don't know, mostly soldiers now. But the towns have been obliterated. This was a Biden fiasco that that should have never happened. If we had a real president, if we had a president that knew what he was doing, Russia would have never, ever gone in. But they did go in, and we have a mess. The cities are all blown up. The people have largely left. And the soldiers are killing each other at levels that haven't been seen since the Second World War. So we'll have to get that one straightened out, too. That's a tough one. Much tougher than it would have been before it started, I can tell you that. A deal could have been made just by an average deal maker. Deal could have been made on that. So thank you all for coming. We'll take a couple of questions. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. I wanted to touch on the world on fire that you mentioned, but let's start, if we could, with your references to Greenland and the Panama Canal, so forth. Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah. I can't assure you, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion, more so maybe than the hostages. The hostages were a big deal. But if you remember, and nobody wants to talk about the Panama Canal now because, it's inappropriate, I guess, but because it's a bad part of the Carter legacy. But he was a good man. Look, he was a good man. I knew him a little bit, and he was a very fine person, but that was a big mistake. Giving the Panama Canal to Panama was a very big mistake. We lost 38,000 people. It cost us the equivalent of $1 trillion, maybe more than that. Probably the most expensive, they say it was the most expensive structure, if we call it a structure, which I guess you can, ever built. And giving that away was a horrible thing. And I believe that's why Jimmy Carter lost the election, even more so than the hostages. Those two things.
If I could just follow up on Ukraine and Iran, the two negotiations you'll be heading into. On Ukraine, you said just before it's a lot more complicated now.
Much more complicated.
Do you believe...
Because it would have never started.
Right, but it has started.
Well, not only started, the cities are largely knocked down.
So you've got what you've got. At this point, to hold on to leverage in dealing with President Putin, would you make a commitment to the Ukrainians that you will keep supporting them during the negotiations?
Well, I wouldn't tell you if that were the case.
Would you make a commitment to provide a security guarantee if they do enter into an armistice or a ceasefire along the lines that the French and the Germans?
So, a big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that. That's been like written in stone. And somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that. But there were a lot of mistakes made in that negotiation. And when I heard the way that Biden was negotiating, I said, you're going to end up in a war. And it turned out to be a very bad war. And it could escalate. That war could escalate to be much worse than it is right now.
They can never join NATO.
Well, my view is that it was always understood. In fact, I believe that they had a deal, and then Biden broke it. They had a deal which would have been a satisfactory deal to Ukraine and everybody else, but that Biden said, no, you have to be able to join NATO. And that's always been, and nobody knows more about NATO than I. Years ago when I first started this, I didn't know too much about NATO, but I got it right anyway. I said they're taking advantage. I'm the one that got, and the Secretary General was here, as you know, 2 weeks ago, saying that if it weren't for me, NATO wouldn't even exist right now, because I raised from countries that weren't paying their bills. At that time, 28 countries, 20 of them were not paying their bills, 21 to be exact. They weren't paying, or they were paying a very small portion. And I raised over $680 billion. That was the number he gave, by saying, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. And as soon as I said that, the money came pouring in. But Obama could have said it. Other people could have said it. Bush could have said it. Nobody said it but me. I took a lot of heat. They said, oh, that's a threatening statement. Well, they weren't paying their bills. I said, we're not going to protect you if you're not paying the bills. So in a true sense, I saved NATO, but NATO's taken advantage of us. And one of the problems that I have, and I've said it openly, I said it to President Zelensky, Europe is in for a tiny fraction of the money that we're in. Now, whether you like that situation or not, Europe is much more affected than the United States. We have a thing called the ocean in between us, right? Why are we in for billions and billions of dollars more money than Europe? And, they're a similar size, a little smaller, but they're a similar size economy as the United States when you add them up. And yet Europe is in for a small fraction of the number the United States is in. Now, Biden could have called them up during the term. That's what I did. I said, you have to pay your bills. And one stood up. I won't say who. You'll probably have it, because the media hated to report on it. But a prime minister stood up from a country, a famous meeting of 28 nations with no press, no anybody in the room. He stood up. He says, does that mean if we don't pay our bill, and at that point it was 2%, it should be 5%. It should be 5%, not 2%. But at that point it was 2%. But many people didn't pay. Some people didn't pay anything. But many people were way, including Germany. Germany was at less than 1%.
You're going to press for 5%?
Well, I think NATO should have 5%, yeah. Well, you can't do it at 2%. I mean, at 2%, every country, if you're going to have a country in a regular military, you're at 4%. I think they should be, they're in dangerous territory. I think they can all afford it, but they should be at 5%, not 2%. I'm the one that got them to pay 2%. But a gentleman stood up, a prime minister stood up, and he said to me, sir, could I ask you a question? You're saying we have to pay our bills. If we don't pay our bills, will the United States protect us from Russia? I said, if you don't pay, you mean you're delinquent? He said, yes. He said, if you're delinquent, we will not protect you. I took a lot of heat. Although it was somewhat closed door, I took a lot of heat from the media. And you know what happened? The money started pouring in. That's why NATO has money. And the Secretary General said it was the most incredible thing he had ever seen in a negotiation. Now, if I would have said, yes, we will, nobody would have paid. If I would have loved to say, yes, we'll protect you even if you don't pay. But that's not the way life works.
Mr. President,
2
questions related to each other. First, you said on your first day of office you're going to pardon January 6th defendants. Are you planning to pardon those who were charged with violent offenses?
Well, we're looking at it, and we have other people in there. And as you see, I guess 24 or 28 people came now from the FBI. That came out very quietly. Nobody reported it, but they had people in some form related to the FBI. They had 4 or 5 people that were strongly related to the FBI. We have to find out about that. We have to find out about Hezbollah. We have to find out about who exactly was in that whole thing, because people that did some bad things were not prosecuted. You know, I see it all the time, and you see it too. People that were doing some bad things weren't prosecuted, and people that didn't even walk into the building are in jail right now. So we'll be looking at the whole thing, but I'll be making major pardons. Yes, please. Please.
On Jack Smith's report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. It's good to see you again. 2 questions about Syria and the ongoing war in Gaza. About Syria, the Pentagon disclosed last month the U.S. has some 2,000 troops in Syria. That's almost double the number initially we were told of 900. Will you keep that troop capacity the same upon taking over?
Well, I won't tell you that because that's part of a military strategy, but I will say it was Turkey. Turkey's been after that country in different names and different forms and shapes for 2,000 years. Those people that went in are from Turkey. And President Erdogan is a friend of mine. He's a guy I like, respect. I think he respects me also. He's the one that didn't go after certain people after I requested that he not. You know who I'm talking about, the Kurds. I don't know how long that's going to, because they're natural enemies. They hate each other. But he didn't do that yet. And he didn't do it in the past also. He started, and Russia was weakened. Please don't do that. And Iran was weakened. So, but if you look at what happened with Syria, he's a very smart guy. And Russia was weakened. People in there through different forms and different names. And they went in and took over. That's the way it is. And he sent his people in there through different forms and different names. By the way, I have the envoy here. That's the way it is. Is that in the back?
HTS taking control.
Standing with. By the way, I have the envoy here. Is that my son? In the back. Eric is Steve Witkoff, who's just got back from the Middle East, and he's done a Steve Witkoff, who's just got back from the Middle East, and he's done a fantastic job. He's a great deal maker. I said, what we need there is a deal maker, because nobody makes a deal. We have people that understand where the rivers are and where the meets and bounds are, but they can't talk. They can't make deals. Steve's done a great job. I just want to thank you, Steve. You've been working endlessly for, I want to say a couple of words. And he's working specifically on the hostages, trying to get him back. Be here, actually. He's done a fantastic job. It's a dangerous job, too, and we appreciate it. He didn't know about this kind of danger and the other deal making he does. Now he sees a lot of big danger. He's done a fantastic job. It's a dangerous job, too, and we appreciate it. He didn't know about this kind of danger and the other deal making he does. Now he sees a lot of big danger. Come on up, Steve. Just 1 second. Wow. I'm going to give you a little report on the hostages, if I can.
Well, I think
Steve?
we're making a lot of progress. And I don't want to say too much because I think they're doing a really good job back in Doha.
Well, I think we're making a lot of progress.
Back to go to Doha. I don't want to say too much,
I think
because
that we've had some
they're doing a really good job,
some really
back
great
in Doha,
progress,
and I'm leaving
really
tomorrow
hopeful
that by the
back to
inaugural
go to Doha,
we'll have some good
but I
things to
think
announce on behalf of the
we've
president.
had some.
I actually
some
believe
really
that
great progress,
we're
and
working
I'm really hopeful
in tandem
that by
in
the
a really good
inaugural,
way, but it's the
we'll have some
president,
good things
his
to announce on
reputation,
behalf of
the
the
things
president.
that he has
I
said.
actually believe that
we're
that are driving
working
this negotiation
in tandem in a really good way,
so
but it's the president,
it'll all work
his
out, and we'll save
reputation,
some lives.
the things that he has said that are driving this negotiation. And
I believe we've
so
been on the
hopefully
verge of it.
It'll all work
I
out.
don't
And
want
we'll
to
save
discuss
some lives.
I believe we've been on the verge of it. I don't want to discuss sort of what's delayed it. There's no point to be negative in any way. But I think it's the president, his stature, what he said he expects, the red lines he's put out there. That's driving this negotiation. I'm going back probably either this evening or tomorrow night.
Are you confident there'll be a deal before January 20th, or is that something that's likely to happen? If there's a deal even at all, and we've been hearing this now for the better part of.
I know. I would say.
They better be.
Right. I would say that the president is exasperated. I don't want to talk for him, but look, I don't know anyone who delegates better than President Trump. He gives us a lot of authority to speak on his behalf, and he exhorts us to speak emphatically. And emphatically means you better get it, you better do this, because the alternative.
Do you think they're waiting for President Trump to take office?
No, I think they heard him loud and clear. Better get done by the inaugural.
But when you say all hell will
Before
be
I
paid,
take
or
office.
that all hell must be paid if they don't release the
You know what that
hostages.
means, don't you?
Well-
Do I have to define it for you? Look, all
No, I know
hell
you're not
will
gonna
break out.
telegraph
If
what
those
the-
hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
Can you elaborate?
And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them. There should have never been the attack of October 7th. People forget that. But there was, and many people are killed. They're no longer hostages. I have people from Israel and others calling, begging me to get, we had also people there from the United States, just so you know. They're holding some so-called hostages from the U.S. But I've had mothers come to me and fathers crying, can I get the body of their son back? Can I get the body of their daughter back? That beautiful girl where they threw her in the car, pulled her by her ponytail and threw her in the car like she was a sack of potatoes. I said, what happened to her? Sir, she's dead. Like a 19, 20-year-old. Steve's got a job to do. He's a great guy, great negotiator, great person. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They respect him over there already. It's what we needed over there. That's what I need. We have people that know everything about the Middle East, but they can't speak properly. They don't know. They're people. They're rare. That's what I need. Great negotiators are very rare. That gentleman right over there, like a great surgeon, a great negotiator. They're people, but they're rare. The right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation. Like a great surgeon, but we have the right person. But I tell this, I don't want to hurt the negotiation. If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks. If the deal isn't done, all hell will break out.
Will you pardon anyone who attacked a police officer?
The only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady named Ashley Babbitt. She was killed, and there was actually somebody else that was killed. The only one that was killed, a MAGA person, but young lady. Don't named Ashley Babbitt. 100%. She was killed, and there was actually somebody else that was killed also. But Ashley Babbitt was killed. She MAGA person, but people don't give it 100% credibility. She was shot. I'm going to find out about it for no reason whatsoever. But Ashley Babbitt was killed. In fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd should have never been made up of a lot of different people. She was shot. So we'll see. But I will tell you this: no reason whatsoever. In fact, they say that she was trying to hold back the crowd, and the crowd. The other thing is, was made up of a lot of different people. There was never charges of insurrection or anything like that. The person, if there were. This would be the only insurrection in history. The other thing is where people went in. There was never charges of insurrectionists with not one gun. But if there were, this would be the only insurrection in history. The people that you're talking about have a lot of guns. People went in for hunting and for shooting and for entertainment with not one gun. A lot of good reasons. Okay, but there wasn't one gun. The people that you're talking about have a lot of guns in their home. That they found for hunting. Why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? A lot of good reasons. The pipe bomber is. The FBI. But there wasn't one gun. The status of the FBI has gone down. And why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? And the status of the DOJ, or as I call it, the Department of Justice, the status of the FBI has laughed at all over the world. And the status of the DOJ, or as I call it, the Department of Justice, with other people that were putting in the Department of Injustice, being laughed at all over the world. And hopefully with Pam Bondi and with Kash Patel and with other people that were putting in.
You didn't rule out military coercion.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. Well, we need Greenland. You have approximately 45,000 people. I've been told that. People really don't even know. A long time, long before I Denmark has any legal right. Talking about it for a long time. But if they do, you have approximately 45,000 because we need it for national security. That's for people really don't even know. I'm talking about protecting. If Denmark has any legal right. You look at. You don't even need binoculars. But if they do, they should give it up. You look outside. You have China ships for the free world all over the place. Protecting you have Russian ships all over the place. You don't even need binoculars. We're not letting that happen. You look outside. You have China ships.
And if Denmark wants
all over the
to,
place, you have Russian
get to a
ships all over the
conclusion,
place.
but nobody
We're
knows
not
if they
letting
even
that
have any
happen.
right, title, or interest. The
We're not
people are
letting
going
it
to
happen.
probably vote for independence
And if
or to
Denmark
come into
wants
the United
to,
States.
uh,
But if they
get
did,
to a
if they did
conclusion,
do that, but nobody
then I
knows.
would- I don't know the people you're talking about. I know he said some negative things about a couple of people that are running for office,
do
but
you anticipate
it's not so
going to
unusual.
meet
Yes,
with
please.
Putin, to discuss? I wanted to ask you about.
Well, I can't tell you that, but I know that Putin would like to meet.
How
I don't think
soon
it's
do you
appropriate that I meet
anticipate
until
going
after the
to
20th, which I hate.
To
Because
discuss the
every day
Ukraine
people are being,
Well, I can't
many,
tell you
many
that, but I
young
know that
people
Putin
would
would
like
like
to meet.
I don't think it's appropriate.
You know,
that
the
I meet
land is
until
very
after the
flat,
20th, which I hate,
and
because
every day
hundreds of
people are being,
thousands of soldiers,
many,
from
many
each,
young
many
people
hundreds
are being
of thousands from each side
killed,
are
soldiers.
dead. You know, the land
And
is
they're
very
laying in
flat.
fields. And
all over the place. Nobody
hundreds
even
of
collects.
thousands
There's
of soldiers
landmines
from
all over.
each-
It's
many
disaster.
hundreds of thousands from each
But it's
side
very
are
flat.
dead.
It's great. It's
and they're
farmland,
laying in
and
fields.
It's very, very flat.
And the only
all
thing
over
that
the place.
stops a
Nobody to
bullet
even
is the
collect.
human
There's
body.
landmines all over.
It's a
and the human
disaster.
body is stopping a lot of
But
bullets.
it's very flat. It's great. It's farmland, and it's very. For 6 months. Look, Russia's losing. I hope to have, and so is Ukraine. And it should have never been started. That's a war that should have never happened. Look, I guarantee
Russia's
you, if I
losing
were
a lot of
president, young people,
that war would have never
and so
happened.
is Ukraine. And it should have never been started. That's a war that should have never happened. I guarantee you, if I were president, that war would have never happened.
Assumption that you're serious about making Canada 51st state of the
I'll be
United
announcing
States.
someplace.
The leader of the Conservative Party, under no circumstance,
It's all
will ever
right.
be on 51st
Then he
serious
maybe
about
he
making
won't win,
Canada
but maybe he will.
51st state of the
I
United
don't.
States. You had suggested
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir Lopez, you said you were considering military force.
Then he maybe he won't win, but maybe he will.
Are you also considering military?
Listen, I don't care what he says.
Sir Lopez, you said you were considering
Economic force.
military force
Because
to acquire
Canada and the
Panama
United
and
States,
Greenland. Are you
that
also
would
considering
really be
military
something.
force to
You get rid of that artificially drawn line.
Economic force.
And you take a look at
Because
what that
Canada
looks like.
and the United
And it would
States,
also be much better
that
for
would
national
really be
security. Don't
something.
forget, we basically
You get
protect
rid of that
Canada.
artificially
But
drawn
here's
line.
the problem with Canada.
And you take a look at
So
what
many
that
friends
looks
up
like.
there. And it would also be much better for national
I love the
security.
Canadian
Don't forget, we
people. They're
basically
great.
protect Canada.
But we're
But here's
spending
the problem with
hundreds of
Canada.
billions a year to protect
So
it.
many friends up
We're
there.
spending hundreds of billions a year to take care
I
of
love
Canada.
the Canadian people.
We
They're
we
great.
lose in
But
trade deficits.
we're spending
losing
hundreds
massive
of we don't
billions a
need
year
their
to
cars.
protect
You
it.
know, they make
We're
20%
spending
of our
hundreds
cars.
of
We don't need
billions a
that.
year
I'd
to
rather
take
make
care
them
of
in
Canada.
Detroit.
We
don't need
lose,
the cars.
in
We
trade
don't need their
deficits.
lumber.
We're losing massive.
We don't need
massive
their
fields
cars.
of
You know,
lumber.
they make
we don't need their
20% of
lumber.
our cars. We don't
We
need
have
that.
to
I'd rather make them
unrestrict
in
them
Detroit.
because stupid people.
We
put,
don't need the
you
cars.
know,
We
restrictions
don't need
on,
their
but I can
lumber.
do that with
We
an
have
executive
massive
order.
fields of lumber.
We don't need
their
anything
lumber.
they have.
We have
have
to
to dairy
unrestrict
products.
them
We have
because
more than they
stupid
have.
people put.
We don't
you know,
need anything.
restrictions
So
on,
why
but I
are
can
we
do that
losing
with an
$200
executive
billion
order.
a year and more?
We don't need anything they
to
have.
protect
We don't need
Canada.
their dairy products.
And I said
We have
that
more
to,
than they have.
as I called
We
him,
don't need anything.
Governor
So why
Trudeau.
are we
I said,
losing
listen,
$200
what would
billion
happen if we
and more
didn't subsidize you
to
if we
protect
didn't,
Canada?
because we give them
And
a
I
lot
said
of money.
that
We
to,
help them as an
as I
example.
called
We're
him,
buying
Governor
icebreakers.
Trudeau. I said, listen,
And Canada
what would
wants to
happen
join us
if
in
we
the buying
didn't
of icebreakers.
subsidize
I said,
you? If we didn't,
we don't really
because we give them a lot of
want to
money.
have a
We help them
partner
as an
in the
example.
buying
We're
of
buying
icebreakers. We don't need a
icebreakers.
partner.
And Canada
But-
wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, you know
oh,
what? We
no
don't really
right. Nope. Want
No
to have a
right.
partner.
Here's what we
in the
have.
buying of
We have a right
icebreakers.
not
We
to
don't need a
help
partner.
them
with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion.
oh,
We're going to start
no right.
knocking it out
Nope.
pretty fast.
No right.
Here's
But
what
we're
we
gonna be
have
able to do it because
we have
of
a right
energy
not
and
to
other
help
things.
them with their
But,
financial difficulties.
no,
because
no
we owe
right.
$36 trillion.
No,
too.
no
We're going
right.
to start knocking it
But
out pretty
why
fast.
are we
But we're going to be able to
supporting
do it because of energy
a
and
country
other things. But,
200 billion plus
no,
a year?
No right.
Our
no
military
right.
is at their
But
disposal.
why are we
all of these other
supporting
things? They should be a state.
country?
That's why I told Trudeau
200
$200
billion
billion
plus
plus. What would
a
happen
year.
if we didn't do it?
Our military
He
is
said
at
Canada
their
would dissolve.
disposal.
All of these
Canada
other
wouldn't
things.
be able
They
to
should be a
function.
state. That's
If
why
we
I
didn't
told
take their
Trudeau when he came
20%
down,
of
I
our
said,
car
what would happen
market,
if we didn't do it?
again,
He said
send us
Canada would dissolve.
hundreds of thousands of
Canada
cars. They
wouldn't
make
be
a lot of money
able to
with that.
function.
They
If
send
we
us
didn't
a lot
take
of
their
other things that we
20%
don't
of
need.
our
We don't
car
need their
market,
cars.
you know,
and
we don't need the
again,
other products. We
they
don't need
send
their
us
milk.
Hundreds of
We get a lot of
thousands
milk.
of cars. They make a lot
We
of
get a
money
lot of
with that.
everything.
They send us a
And
lot
we
of
don't need
other
any
things that
of
we
it.
don't need. We don't need
So
their
I said
cars,
to him,
and we
well,
don't need the other products.
why
we don't
are we
need their
doing
milk.
it? He said, I don't really
We got
know.
a lot
He
of
was
milk.
unable to answer the question.
We get a lot of everything.
But I can answer it. We're doing
And
it
we don't
because
need
of
any
habit.
of it.
And we're
So I
doing
said
it
to him,
because we
well,
like our
why are we
neighbors, and
doing
we've
it?
been
He
good
said, I don't
neighbors.
really know. He was unable to
But we
answer
can't
the
do it
question.
forever, and
But
it's
I
a
can answer
tremendous
it. We're doing
amount
it
of money
because of habit.
And
why
we're
should
doing
we
it
have a
because we
$200
like
billion
our
deficit?
neighbors, and we've been good
And
neighbors.
add on to that many,
we
many
can't do
other
it
things that we
forever,
give
and it's
them
a
in terms
tremendous
of
amount of
subsidy.
money.
And I said, that's
And
okay
why
to
should
have
we have a $200
if you're a
billion
state
deficit?
But if you're
And
another country,
add
we
on
don't
to
wanna
that
have it.
many,
We're not
many
gonna have
other
it with
things that we
European
give them
Union
in
either.
terms of subsidy.
European
And I
Union,
said,
we have
that's
a trade
okay to
deficit of
have
$350
if you're a state.
billion. But if you're another country, we
They
don't
don't
wanna
take
have
our
it. We're not going to
cars.
have it with European
They don't
Union
take our
either.
farm product. They
European
don't take
Union,
anything.
we have a trade deficit of $350
We're not
billion.
going to have it with them either.
They don't take our cars.
Brian, go ahead.
They don't take our
Happy
farm
New Year, by the
product.
way.
They don't
Thank you.
take
We have some
anything.
breaking news you may not be aware of.
And
It
so,
looks like
we're not
Canon
gonna
has
have it
blocked
with
the
them either.
DOJ from releasing this.
Brian,
Smith
go ahead.
report
Yes.
until
Happy
further,
New Year, by the way.
Thank you.
We have some breaking news you may
That's
not
a
be
big
aware of.
story.
It looks like Canon has blocked
So,
the DOJ
if I get it
from
right,
releasing the Smith
the-
report until further
The
court
fake
proceedings. Get
witch
your
hunt
thoughts on that.
that's a big started
story.
by the DOJ.
So,
Having to
if
do
I
with
get
books
it
and
right,
records, and
the-
Biden had many more, and he wasn't
fake
protected by the
witch
Presidential
hunt
Records Act.
started
was.
by the
But
DOJ.
all of that fake stuff that
having
that
to do
took
with books
the
and
lives
records
of
and-
people,
and
I mean,
Biden
literally
had
destroyed
many more,
people.
and he wasn't
People
protected
are
by the
destroyed
Presidential
because of what
Records
they
Act.
did.
I was destroyed.
But all of that fake stuff that,
But we got
that
to be
took the
president.
lives of people, I mean, literally
But
destroyed people.
Biden
People are
did it for
destroyed
40
because of what they
years.
did. He did it when he was a
Destroyed.
senator. That was illegal. And
But
they
we got
ruled
to
it
be
was illegal.
president.
How about that?
But
they said
Biden
it's illegal,
did it for
but he's
40
unfit
years.
to stand trial.
He did it when he was a senator.
So he can
that was
stand
illegal.
and they ruled
and
it
be
was
president of the
illegal.
United
How about
States.
that?
But the
They
prosecutor
said,
found that he's unfit
it's
for
illegal,
trial.
but he's
I was
unfit
going
to
use
stand
that as a
trial.
major talking point.
So
but
he
I
can
never got to
stand
use it because all of a
and
sudden
be
I had a
president
new
of the United
candidate who was
States, but the
also
prosecutor
sort of
found that he's
to
unfit
stand
for trial.
right?
I was going to use that
But,
as a major
so
talking
what you're
point, but I
saying
never
is
got
that
to
the
use it
judge
because
just
all of a
blocked
sudden I had a new candidate who was also
so
sort of unfit to stand
Cannon was
trial.
thrown off the case,
But
they dropped their
so what
appeal
you're
because he
saying
had
is
no
that the
case.
judge just
They
blocked.
dropped all of that.
the
So
lawsuits against us.
Cannon
They
was
lost
thrown
the
off the
lawsuit.
case.
They
So
dropped their appeal
this
because
is,
he had no
uh,
case. They dropped
Doreen
all of that.
Jack-Smith.
So
the
he
lawsuits
dropped
against
the
us.
lawsuits.
They
He was
lost
told
the
to
lawsuit.
by the DOJ because they had no lawsuit.
So
they lost
this is
in court
in front of a
Doreen
very
Jack-Smith.
strong,
So
and
he
a very
dropped
brilliant
the
judge.
lawsuits.
They
He was
lost
told
in
to by
court.
the DOJ because
and
they
that
had no
pertained
lawsuit.
to
They
other
lost
cases
in
other
court.
courts.
So
in
he
front
wanted
of
to
a
do
very
a report
strong
just before
and a very
I take
brilliant
office,
judge.
probably.
They lost in court.
So he'll do like
and that
a 500
pertained to
page
other
report,
cases in other courts.
and it'll be a fake
So
report.
he wanted
just
to
like
do
the
a
investigation
report
was a fake
just
investigation.
before I take office, probably.
And I said, well, wait a minute.
So he'll do
this
like a
guy was
500
thrown off in
page report,
disgrace. In disgrace.
and
He's
it'll
gone
be a
back to
fake
the Hague
report
or
just
wherever
like
they're
the
going to send him.
investigation was a fake
In disgrace.
investigation because he failed.
And I said,
so
well, wait a
badly.
minute. This
Because
guy
it
was
a
thrown
fake
off in disgrace.
case
In
against
disgrace.
the
He's gone
political
back to the
opponent.
Hague
They
or
thought
wherever
they were
they're
gonna
going to
use
send
this to
him.
beat me.
In disgrace.
So because he
what
failed
you're saying
so
is
badly.
the, and I'm
Because
just
it was
hearing
a
that
fake
they're
case
not allowed
against
to
the
issue the
political
report.
opponent.
So
They
if
thought
they're
they were
not
gonna
allowed
use
to
this to
issue
beat
the
me.
report, that's the way it should be.
So
because he was thrown
what
off
you're
the
saying
case
is
in
the- and
disgrace.
I'm just
Why
hearing
should
that-
he be allowed to write a
they're
fake
not allowed
report?
to issue
It'll
the
only be a
report.
fake report.
So if they're not allowed to
That's
issue the
great
report,
news.
that's
Good.
the way it should be.
If I can just follow
Because
up
he was
quickly.
thrown off the case in disgrace. Why should he be allowed to write a fake report? It'll only be a fake report. That's great news. Good.
And if I can just follow up real quickly, you want to comment, many Americans are angry that we're sending millions of dollars every month to the Taliban. Do you anticipate?
It's not even believable. billions of dollars, not millions, billions. We pay billions of dollars to essentially the Taliban, Afghanistan. And that's given by Biden. That's the same man that took away $50 to $60 trillion worth of value from the United States. Think of it, probably our most valuable asset. Took away our most valuable asset. This can't be allowed to happen. We are now a nation of common sense. When he does that, 625 million acres, this can't be allowed to happen. Thank you for the information.
Yes, sir.
Most other people probably knew about it, but they wouldn't have told me, right?
Mr. President, on the campaign trail, you vowed to bring down the prices at grocery stores very fast.
Yeah, we won't
but
do it
then
fast.
you recently told Time Magazine that bringing down prices would be very hard. So what can the American people expect when you get into office?
It's always
When
hard to
can they
bring
go
down
the
prices when
grocery
somebody
bill
else
and
has screwed something up like they did. But we'll bring them down. We'll get them down. Energy is going to bring down prices. We're going to have a lot of energy, and energy is what brought it up. Energy and their bad spending is what brought it up, and energy is going to bring it down. We're going to have prices down. I think you're going to see some pretty drastic price reductions. As an example, food, bacon, ham, apples, everything has gone through the roof. It's one of the reasons I won. So as you know, I said it, inflation was one of the reasons I won, but I think the biggest reason I won was the fact that they are allowing prisoners to come into our country. They released their prisoners, their murderers. Thousands of murderers are now walking around the streets of our cities and farmland all over. Murders, people that have killed. Many, 32% have killed more than one person. They released them from their jails, their prisons, and their mental institutions and insane asylums into our country. I believe that's the reason we got such a large vote. All right, maybe one or two more questions. Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead, you go.
Sir, can you, President Carter is laying in state today in Washington. You had some harsh words for him about the Panama Canal. Is there any disconnect there? Do you feel a little bit bad about doing that on this day?
No, I liked him as a man. I disagreed with his policy. So, hey, he thought giving away the Panama Canal was a good thing. I think it cost him the election. That and the hostages. I actually think that was a bigger factor because that's a deal that just should not have been made. But again, this was a question that was asked of me. I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to bring up the Panama Canal because of Jimmy Carter's death. But people don't bring it up. But, you and other people have asked me about it. No, it's a deal that I was very strongly against. I was a young guy when this took place. But just why would we spend all of that money, lose 38,000 people to malaria, the mosquito? They were dying. It was horrible what was happening. They paid them 4 times more than they would make in the United States, but they knew they were going to go over there and die. And they died in the jungles of malaria. There was nothing we could do to stop it. 38,000, and then we gave it away for $1.
Without getting your agenda through Congress, you appeared to open the door in your radio interview yesterday for 2 bill approaches. It's still your preference for one big, beautiful bill, as you have said.
Well, I like one big, beautiful bill, and I always have, I always will. But if 2 is more certain, it does go a little bit quicker because you can do the immigration stuff early. Now, you have to understand, for immigration and for the wall, we won the case on the wall. They tried to sell the wall for 5 cents on the dollar, by the way. In other words, double what we paid for it. So they were going to buy it from this guy for 5 cents on the dollar. They were making deals. Unfortunately, we had a very smart judge that stopped it cold. I think he called for an investigation, too, and he should. But think of it. They were selling the wall that was exactly the wall that the Border Patrol wanted. That was designed by them. Steel, concrete, rebar, exactly as they want. Very, very heavy steel, very powerful steel, hard to cut. Very, very heavy, 7,000-pound concrete, which is a very strong concrete. Everything was top of the line. Very expensive. Would be double what we paid for it then, 6 years ago. But let me just tell you, they were selling it for 5 cents on the dollar to people, and those people were calling us, asking us to pay them 200 cents because it's a good deal because we can have it immediately. And you know what immediately is? Just leave it in place. No. The papers haven't written that, though. That deal is like all the other things that these people do. These people either hate our country or they're very stupid. And I don't believe they're stupid because nobody can cheat few weeks, but right now this is the winter season. You know, they sort of call this the winter White House. It was built, I don't know if you know this, Marjorie Meriwether Post and E.F. Hutton built this. It was the greatest of all the estates in our country. And I saved it, and I got a lot of credit for saving it. Most of these big, great houses have been knocked down in Palm Beach, just about all of them, actually. And they, you know, you'd build 10 mansions on one site, but we saved it. But this was built as the Southern White House, and she gave it to the government. And, by the way, Jimmy Carter gave it back. He said it's too expensive for the United States. So I didn't realize that.
Real quick, I was just told.
Actually, Jimmy Carter, Nixon was through Watergate. He came down. Nixon came here once, and he thought it was incredible. But he had a thing called Watergate, if anybody remembers that, and his mind, to put it mildly. And Jimmy Carter felt that it was too extravagant for the country. So, fortunately for me, he gave it back to the foundation, and I bought it from the foundation.
President, on reconciliation, some Republicans saying in trade for a massive bill that you and they share the interest in, they want to see big spending cuts. Do you agree with that? And
Well, I'm okay with spending cuts. I like spending cuts. Just, I'm on the record for spending cuts. And the debt ceiling was given to us. It shouldn't have been, but it was put in our lap. And what I want in terms of debt ceiling isn't the ceiling. I just don't want to see a default. That's all I want. I never talked about spending more money necessarily than all I want to see is no default, because nobody knows what would happen if there was a default. It could be 1929 and it could be nothing, but that was put into our lap, and it shouldn't have been, but it was, and so we'll handle it. But debt ceiling is not about raising a lot of money. It's really just about extending it. I just want to see an extension.
On immigration, how much can you do by executive order? Are you planning to do on executive order when it comes to immigration? And how much do you want Congress to tackle this issue? And also on day one,
well, I had the safest
what
border in the history of our country by far. You remember the famous chart that I brought down. I love that chart very much for a lot of reasons. But I have the safest border by far in the history of our country. And when I took it over, it was a mess. Nothing like it is now. This is 10 times worse. I got elected because of the border the first time, and I think I got elected largely because of the border the third time. And the second time I did equally well. Well, not as well as the last time, but I did very well. And I will say, this was too big to rig. You know the expression? Too big to rig. They couldn't do it. They tried, but they couldn't do it. I didn't get very much from Congress at all. I just said that we're being invaded.